Welcome to this little portrait study paintings tour. It's not really a sketchbook tour because it's not done in a sketchbook, so I thought let's call it portrait study tour. And I wanted to show you guys a couple of them. I have a stack here, and I wanted to start off with this one of Meryl Streep. I always mix them up, Helen Mirren and Meryl Streep, for some reason. I guess there are some similarities, but this is from the movie The Devil Wears Prada. And of course, my wife and I, we watched the movie a couple of months ago, and then I was inspired to paint her portrait, and I thought I'll make it really expressive. So we have these very loose brush strokes in the back. I don't know if you can see it properly in camera, but it's like if you go over it with the finger, you can actually feel the texture. So it's very, it's very thickly applied in some areas. And for instance, here her dress, I really loved that because I didn't make it in a way that it's like a copy one-to-one, nowhere near, I would say, especially with the dress. It's like very loose, expressive, but then more defined, more refined in the face and the features area. So as soon as you start to put in the features a little bit, of course you can use small brushes. Of course you can use small brushes from the get-go. You don't need to use any type of big brush at all. But what I really like to do with these portrait studies, at least, is like I'd like to challenge myself with using one brush for as long as I can use it, basically, without having to switch to the detail brushes. So, of course, I think I used some smaller brush for the eyelashes and for the eye, and maybe for the eyebrow, I'm not sure. But most of the features are done with one brush, which is this, if you would translate it, it's a Fasson brush, cat tongue. If you would translate it in German, it's actually cat tongue brush because it looks a little bit like a tongue. Anyway, this one was a lot of fun, and I think the sun is going down a little bit. I hope you can still see it properly. This was one of my favorite portraits ever to do. I don't know, I was just in a good flow state, and I loved the colors, I loved the expression, and I just had a really good time with this one. So one of my favorites. Another one that I recently did in the last couple of months or weeks, I don't remember exactly when, is this one. This is just a random photo from the internet, a stock-free photo that I found, and it was of a man in a train in Japan, and of course the train background not there. I just wanted to have this very, very simple background, just two colors basically interacting with each other. And my favorite part of this actually is the color blending into his, into the structure of his head, basically, into the hairline and into the t-shirt. So very different from the previous one. If we go a little bit closer, hope we can see it. I used this blending brush, so basically a makeup brush, or a very soft, again, a Fasson brush or some kind of filbert brush. Any type of brush that's really soft is very useful if you have that. If you have that available, if you have access to a soft brush that is not bristly, that is not used too much at least. But even with this one, I think I used it quite a bit before. As long as you keep the brush clean and you have the color applied and you work wet and wet, so alla prima technique, again, this is all done in one sitting. All of these portraits are between, I would say, 2.5 to maximum 3.5 hours. And this one, I wanted to stress a little bit more this softening effect, I would say. So I wanted to achieve a softer look, especially in the back. So like he's fading into the background, and the left side of his face a little bit more sharp, a little bit more defined. This was also a lot of fun, and this one was done actually on paper. So just regular paper, a little bit thicker. It's not this office paper that you use for the printer. It's a little bit of a thicker paper, and then a little bit of gesso applied in the background, just one layer, and the rest is oil paint straight from the tube. Of course, mixed with other oil paint colors, other hues, but I don't think I used linseed oil, maybe a little bit for some areas, but I don't think so. When you work alla prima, you really don't need any linseed oil. What is very handy though, if you work with water mixable oil paint, is use some water for the background, which I didn't use in the beginning. This here, I also liked it. I did not like this in the beginning, to be honest. I looked at it and I was like very disappointed, and I didn't have a good day. And you know, when the mood is fluctuating, and that is unfortunately these days, these weeks, I had a very difficult time, to be honest. But still, art keeps me going, and I just need to do it. You know, it's one of those things where you know every day, no matter what, there's this one thing, even if it's just 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day, right? It's like pulls you in. Art is one of those things, creating with paint, because it's so colorful, it's so healing. I think colors are extremely healing on a level I think that we do not even understand. It's a very very spiritual experience. This is Robin Williams from a movie called Jack. I did not see this movie personally, but I was inspired. I looked everywhere, like, where can I find this movie? I want to see it. Could not find it anywhere, could not get it anywhere. But I really loved the screenshots, what are they called? The film stills from this movie, and I found one that I thought this would be a nice little portrait painting, nice little exercise, especially with his pink shirt. I think I dramatized it a little bit. It's not that intensely pink, but it has this peachy vibe a little bit. And I just really liked his gaze and I don't know, the soulfulness of it. Of course, Robin Williams, I think, was a very soulful man. We can all sense that in his eyes and in his, demeanor. And yeah, he has a very, very, very strong, soulful heart that you can feel. And then the background again, very, very chunkily applied, very abstract, almost blending with the person, with the figure. I like to do that sometimes, to literally brush over, to almost merge background and foreground together. I know some people might prefer it more distinct, more separated from the background, but I like to do that sometimes. And here the brush strokes a little bit rougher, so I also used, I think, not the finest brushes. So I don't remember exactly what type of brushes, but again, you can see the application of the paint pretty clearly. If I put it closer to the camera, or you can see like it has this texture, this felt texture on top, but pretty evenly, so I did not make one part stick out more than the others. I would say actually the background is a little bit stronger than the foreground in some areas, usually. Yeah, the lips also very simple, just a few shapes, and then these pinkish highlights, because I like to do that sometimes to add these colors that I use for the clothes or for the background, or really to add a little bit from the environment in the facial structure, just as a reflection point, just as a little, I don't know, just a little artistic quirk, I guess. But yeah, what I always like to do with these portraits is to emphasize the eyes, which automatically happens as long as you put in this little sparkle in the eyes. I would say 90% of the time the eyes start to become alive. If there's not this spark, not this light reflection in the eyes, it feels a little bit dead. There are some cases, I would say, where you can make it very muted and very dim depending on the light conditions and the environment, of course, also that you place the character, the portrait in. But usually I like to make it very shiny, very bright, and also this little pop on the nose sometimes. This one is also one of my favorites. This is again this canvas paper with cotton paper mix, whatever. And I really like the colors here. It had this very fiery, bright, I don't know, intensity to it. And this was not from the reference photo that I found. This is actually AJ, the singer, from, what is the movie called? I forgot it. K-pop Demon Hunters, of course. Most famous movie ever. And it's not 100% her. I know that the resemblance, there's a little bit something missing, I guess, but it's still close enough. And I really, really like the color combinations. I think she originally sits in front of a red curtain or something, or a red drapery. I'm not sure exactly, but because of that background, I was like, oh, this is a beautiful portrait. This is perfect to paint. I like to have this frame just with the shoulders, just the frame cut here. And yeah, I also played a lot with the color combinations here. This orangey bright pink, literally like one swoop here, this orange, and then it transitions into pink and a little bit more red, and then on top again this orange. I know it sounds and looks very random, but it's actually not. It's like when you do it, you look out for these spots and these moments in a painting, moments or areas, right? Where you can put these little artistic quirks where you say, okay, this is not something you would ever find in a photograph. This makes it worthy of a painting. This makes it worthy of exploring with the brush and not just pointing a camera at a subject, right, and calling it a day, which of course is way faster and of course more accurate because you're literally capturing reality. But what's so fun about painting is, I think, if you have this realistic tendencies at least, or realism elements, but then there is this hint of I don't even want to call it abstraction, but like these artistic quirks and just something that gives it, I don't know, another flavor. My wife would call it flavor. She uses that word when she feels something in I don't know, an atmosphere, or when you, I don't know, you watch a movie and you have this type of mood that you walk out of the cinema after you watch that movie, or a certain type of, I don't know, environment. You see a sunset and it has a different flavor, right? A storm has a different flavor than a sunset. I don't know, a drama movie has a different flavor than a comedy movie. You know what I mean. And here also, again, I added these pinkish tones, like really strongly contrasting the shadow areas here with a very strong shadow, I would say. Even if it's not super dark and super deep blackish, like the dress and the hair is pure black. I think I even used ivory black here, which I don't use very often. Mostly a combination of French ultramarine and raw umber I love to use, or burnt umber. And sometimes a little bit of crimson, sometimes a little bit of phthalo green, the blue shade, or sometimes even a little bit of magenta if it's not a super dark hue, basically. But here I think I used ivory black, and then the outline again with some titanium white and some bright orange. So really enjoyed that one. And then one of my favorites recently that I made is a portrait of Sherlock. Some dust flakes. It's supposed to be Sherlock from the Enola Holmes movies, from the third one. I found a beautiful still, and I know again it's not 100% the likeness or anything, but I really just enjoyed playing around with the colors and with the mix between loose brush strokes and pulling out of those loose brush strokes a certain type of realism, a certain type of dimension, I would say, and depth, I think, which I kind of achieved with this. I at least was very happy with it when I was done. And again, this was like, I don't know, 3.5 hours of work or something. And this is again paper, just some, I don't know, 250 grams paper and some gesso, a layer of gesso on top. And then the rest is, I think here actually water mixed a little bit. I mixed some water into the oil paint for the background. And then his portrait, I think, is mostly undiluted. So I think this is just oil paint without any water mixes in it, but I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly. And one of my favorite parts, of course, was the eyes at the end, putting in these very blue, bright eyes and these two sparkles. But also I just loved painting the nose and the structure of the cheek here, because I don't know if you can see it, I added these little hints once again, this bright orange pop and then this very bright yellowish, greenish neon pop here and here. And it sounds, again, it sounds so random and it sounds so abstract in a way, but when you add these little pops of color, if they're not too extreme, or if they're not like completely the whole face is covered in these spots, then it looks a little bit weird maybe. But again, could look also nice if there's paintings, there's beautiful portraits that I saw also where the whole face is literally just random. It looks like random colors, but so beautifully arranged, and there's no natural color in it. It's just neon bright spots, but still it works because the form is there and the dimensionality is there and the character is there. And I feel like it's so lovely when you can capture with a portrait the character and also the atmosphere of it, even if there's no background other than just a bunch of stripes, literally like rushing down, which I like to do like these to give it a little bit of more motion. So to literally put the character, the portrait in a more dynamic setting, even if it's not dynamic. To my eye at least, it gives it a little bit more movement, if you know what I mean. And here the neck also, broad brush strokes. Here I fumbled a little bit more with the beard. I used, I think, a smaller pointed round brush. I think for most of this portrait it was a pointed round number 6 or something. Don't remember exactly. And then the hair is really mostly one color, then 1 or 2 values shifted in between here, then some bright spots, a little bit of brown, a little bit darker here on the right side. But I really love the transition here from this cheek to the nose with this again bright pink part on the nose, and then this very brightish skin color. So the basic skin tone mixtures that I'm using is burnt sienna plus titanium white. That's the very basic here. And there's a bunch of other mixes. There's also yellow ochre in most of the portraits, but I switched to, I think, cadmium yellow hue medium. I think that's the one, because I have more of that left in the tube, and the yellow ochre is getting a little bit tighter. So I thought, okay, let's use the medium yellow hue. That plus the burnt sienna plus some titanium white plus some red, you know, depending on the area, of course. The nose here is really reddish. Usually the forehead is more yellowish, but also depending on the reference photo that you use, sometimes literally could be the whole face red, or the whole face has a more yellowish, yellow ochreish tone, or the whole face has a more bluish tone, right? Really depending on the setting, really depending on the environment. Did you put your character, did you put your portraiture subject in, and the flavor you want to go for, right? If you want to have it more cool, obviously you will use more bluish tones, more greenish, maybe a little bit more artificial colors even, you know, like these neon outlines here. I still feel this portrait is very warm because of the background, this magenta, violetish, purplish background, plus the skin tones have a very, very warm feeling to it. While if you compare it with this one here, this is way cooler. Like I look at it, it fits her character, to me personally, way more if I make the tones a little bit cooler, greenish, of course in combination with the white hair, and just mute it down in that sense, and also have a little bit more of a compressed value range. So the skin is more whitish, it's more pale, obviously, and here it's way more earthy, I would say. It has this whole portrait has a way more earthy, warmer tone to it. But then this very bright, neon-y, artificial outline just makes him pop from the background, I feel, but doesn't make him look cold or anything. This one also is super warm, right? The outline kind of makes her almost being born from this fiery background. That's why I called this portrait also Born from Fire, because that's the feel I get from it. It's like a lot of strength, a lot of divine feminine strength, and born from fire. And this one here, again, this is like a mix between cool and warm, because the face has actually warm colors, but it has a very cool feel with this surrounding blue. And it has, I don't know, it has this strange sadness to me, but in a very profound way. Like it has this melancholic sadness to it. Anyway, a lot of rambling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe, and if you want to see more portraits, I'm definitely going to continue this series. I'm going to continue painting more of these until I have 100. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and see you next time.